people of the World Wide Web. So it is a Wednesday. It is another look what I've been watching, and this is what we have. So it doesn't look like much. There is more to it than meets the eye. No, it's not Transformers. But obviously I have quite a few big box sets to go through, so this is why it's kind of a little bit limiting, but there will be more to this story. So the first off we have in reverse order is I Love You, Philip Morris. Actually is based on a true story, quite fabricated from a true story. There's a lot of stuff around. Essentially, Jim Carrey is a guy who's a con man, has a wife, has kids, then kind of you come out of he's actually gay. He goes through a lot, decides to become gay and do a lot of con man stuff, as it's kind of as he comes out as gay, he also comes out as a con man because he wants to live a lifestyle on that. He ends up going to jail, and in jail he meets the Ewan McGregor character of Philip Morris, and it's about those two kind of falling in love. They get out of jail, he then does more conning and goes back in, and there's a lot of in and outs, there's a lot of scheming, there's a lot of there. I thought the movie was all right. I didn't know it was based on true story until the very end. It is kind of very much Jim Carrey's humour a little bit, but I don't know. I just didn't resonate with the characters. I didn't resonate with the story. It was a little bit slapstick and over accentuated a lot of things. Just me, I say it was a blind buy at £2, and I will keep it in the collection because it's based on true events, and obviously I have looked stuff up and it is quite interesting to learn that. But it's not the greatest story in the world. Obviously £2 is adequate enough. So next we have, this is the Star Trek box set. So this is the first 6 movies of Star Trek. I have watched these a long time ago, but we will go through them one. So first we have the motion picture. So I thought this one was all right. I think it's 1979, so around the era of Star Wars. The kind of CG I thought was really good. The models worked really well. The story, the fact it tied it to a kind of satellite was all right, but I kind of 2.5 hours I kind of found it too long and a little bit boring in places. Say the first hour was kind of like, this is the Enterprise, blah blah blah, and I was like, come on, let's kick the story into gear. But it is what it is. Next we have Wrath of Khan. This is the only one I kind of ever remember watching, even though I rewatched them when I bought them on DVD many years ago. It's Chekhov when he gets the worm in his ear. That's the bit I always remember. And scenes, I did enjoy this movie. I did think it was quite clever. I didn't know until watching it. Obviously, it's linked to an episode from the TV series. I'm not the biggest fan of the TV series. I have watched some stuff from my dad, but I'm more a Generations guy. But I did like that. Then we have, obviously, The Search for Spock. The return of Doc Brown, Christopher Lloyd, or not the return of Doc Brown, but Christopher Lloyd in it as an evil Klingon. Him wanting to, obviously, Genesis and stuff like this, and how the story evolves. I did quite enjoy this. Obviously, you got to kind of the first movie presence of the Klingon bird of prey, which was quite cool. So the Klingons from the first movie to this, the special effects have obviously gone up. I quite like the planet, and the practical effects I thought was done really, really well. Next up, we have The Voyage Home. I did really, really enjoy this. The fact they go back in, there's a kind of, it is an unconventional villain, but the fact then they got to go back in time, and I quite like the back in time and seeing them in the different environments and stuff, and I really quite enjoyed that as a fun watch. Then 5, The Final Frontier, the William Shatner directed one. I quite enjoyed this one. I quite liked it. Was like in the deserts, they mixed scenes up a little bit, and it was a different format. For me, I know reading behind the scenes, a lot of it was chopped and changed, so I think that kind of makes sense story. For me, it spent like 75% of the story leading up to the kind of villain, bad guy, and then he's dispatched quite quickly, and I think that was too quick in my eyes and the pacing, but I know there was a lot of changes and a lot of disagreements and a lot of stuff moved around. Obviously the fact that characters would portray Shatner's Kirk. There was a lot of stuff that Gene Rottenberg stuff went through that. Then we have the final one, and we have The Undiscovered Country. I actually really enjoyed this. I didn't really remember this at all. I think it was a really nice send-off. I like the addition of Kim Cattrall. I like the fact it's kind of a mystery most of the way through it. And obviously, even though you had the Klingons in this, it was nice to not have just the Klingons as bad guys. For the movies, you see Klingons are kind of, that's kind of where they're laced. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed watching all of this. Obviously, I will come back to this once we've done the other reviews. And I'll explain the reason for that. So next one we have The Killing Season 4. This is the final season of the adapted Norwegian series. Series 1 and 2, me and my wife really enjoyed. Season 3, my wife didn't enjoy much. It goes a little bit darker. This is a kind of a follow-on from that, and they end the series. It is only 6 episodes. I did think it was a great ending. They tied everything up and kind of left you to see where their future's gone. The characters go through very much hardship, and it's not the perfect ending, but I think it is a really good ending for the characters and the world that they live in. It was very fast paced because it was only 6 episodes. I think if they were given a few more, I think they could have paced it out and it would have come across a bit better. A little infuriating at times because they're cops and they do some silly mistakes, but it is what it is. And then the final one for this week's video is Tom and Jerry, one I picked up recently. I'd already watched this, I rewatched this again. I quite enjoyed it. I thought the animation was quite good. For me, obviously I grew up watching Tom and Jerry, so I can rate this. I can understand why it didn't do as well, because I think Tom and Jerry is quite outdated for a lot of people. The fact they don't speak and stuff like this, but it's kind of the silly stuff. But I think it worked well enough for what it was, for a family-friendly kid movie that people could enjoy. So as I said, that is Look What I've Been Watching. I think it's 94, but we're going to go back. So we will go back to this. I will take out the final one. And the reason why we've gone back to this, I've had thinking, when I was watching these, me, AJ and Matt, obviously we talk quite a lot behind the scenes. We send pictures and it's stuff like this, and I would be sending pictures back, and AJ said he would be very interested to know my ranking of these 6 movies. So I'm going to rank these in reverse order. So I will do number 6. So first off, to give you a background, I was born in the early 80s. My dad did watch Star Trek, and he did enjoy it. I do remember the early Star Trek, not too much, but more the memories I have from him is more Generations. That is the era kind of we watched together, and that is what I come from. So this is kind of very much the past, and I can't relate to it as much. As I said, out of all the movies, what I can remember, and the fact that I watched bits of them maybe when I was a kid, and then I've rewatched them in my teenage years when I bought them on DVD. The only one I can remember is the Wrath of Khan, and it's that worm going in the ear, and obviously then the scenes that they always show of Khan in the spaceship, and obviously attacking the Enterprise. So I don't have much relation to that. So this is why I kind of wanted to give some background, and I watched them all one after the other, night after night, and this is kind of my review, and I will give it. So, number 6 is the motion picture, Star Trek 1. So I know people a lot of this. For me, it's the longest Star Trek movie. It come across as a bit boring for me. Obviously, it was good that obviously they had to build the world. I know there was stuff with like the teleporters and stuff like this, of killing off characters and stuff to make like Spock obviously then come in a situation. For me, it was, as Matt has said to me, it's like a thinking movie, and maybe it is, and for me it didn't feel like a Star Trek kind of movie. It kind of felt like, first hour, let's bring you into the world, this is the Enterprise, and then kind of very quickly fly through space, and then you've got this entity, and that's what it's most of the time, learning all about this entity, and then it kind of has the ending it does with obviously the human letting himself go over, being with kind of his love interest anyway, so it kind of has a subplot there, and they go off. And to me, it didn't feel like a very much Star Trek movie, because by the end of it, apart from losing 2 cast members, there isn't too much changes from this, from the start of 2. So that is why number 6 is the motion picture. Number 5, conveniently, is number 5. So I did enjoy this movie, The Final Frontier. I do know this is William Shatner's, obviously he did direct it, because I think 3 and 4 were done by Leonard Nimoy. Reading up it, I think the interference, as I said, did play a habit. I did enjoy some of the stuff, you know, it's quite different. Her dancing naked and stuff like this is like not something you'd necessarily see. The fact they brought in like ambassadors and stuff like this, and obviously started to kind of invoke a bit of the bigger world, because as I say, for the most part, the Klingons are the bad guys throughout most of this story. Obviously, being from generations and knowing the Borg and the Romulans and all these other, Ferengi and everything else, you have all these other different ones. But in this movie continuum, most of the time, it is some weird alien that they've never experienced, like in 1 and 4, or it's the Klingons. More, in my opinion, obviously. So yeah, so that's why I put that. I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't know. I think this one gets quite a bit of bad press, as I think if there had been less interference and stuff, I think, and the pacing would have been a bit better, specifically with the ending, obviously, because it has all this build up to this like even Vulcan. It's kind of not evil Vulcan, but it's God, and it's not God. And then it ends up not being God. It's just this entity, and the whole switch around. Shatner realised it almost straight away, and then it blow the head up. It's very quick with that, and I feel like there could have been more of a progression to that, or more linkage to that. But that is number 5. So number 4 is going to be a little bit different on this. So actually, I don't have a 4, I have a joint 3. And this is where it is. And my joint 3 is The Wrath of Khan and The Search for Spock. So I bet you people are going to be, why the hell isn't this number 1? So for me, I did enjoy this movie. I did thought it was fun. For me, because I then realised there was more of a story to the TV series, and I've not seen that. I couldn't have the connection. I couldn't have the follow-up. I thought them doing it and then releasing it, I can understand why it was so good and why it would sit where it would. But me, I don't have that connection. For me, I went in, it's kind of the good versus evil. He is an evil person, but as even Spock says, because of his anger, he thinks in 2 dimensions, and they kind of easily outdone him, and he was just literally, they goaded him to quite a lot of stuff. Unfortunately, obviously, you do have the emotions of Spock dying, but obviously then with this, Spock is alive. Obviously, you do have some revelations also in this of, look, you have Kirk's son. I did enjoy this. As I say, I did enjoy the Klingons. I thought the makeup was far better. I did enjoy Christopher Lloyd as a villain. It was better for him to get personal. And obviously with the world building and stuff, it I think visually it worked really, really well. I like the fight. Kind of the fight is very much of what I remember the series, punches and then just like kind of kicking him off a ledge. I enjoyed that. But the reason why I put this 3 in something is essentially is you had the start. So you have the start of Wrath of Khan. This movie, what did we learn? Let's create Genesis. Let's find out about Kirk's son. Let's kill Spock. The next movie, let's kill Kirk's son. Let's bring Spock back alive. Let's destroy Genesis. Essentially, from the beginning of this movie to the end of this movie, apart from the reference of Kirk's son that comes back in the Undiscovered Country, literally from the start to the end, nothing really changes. Apart from blowing up the Enterprise. Did they blow up the Enterprise? Yeah, they blew up the Enterprise. And that's kind of just to get a new ship. And it's kind of felt like Wrath of Khan was so good that then they kind of did reverse for A Search for Spock. I say I enjoyed them. I think they're good movies. But for me, that's how the continuum, how it sits. So then number 2, for me, is the Undiscovered Country. So this is the kind of ending for this era. Obviously, Shatner does then appear, I think, in Generations with obviously Jean-Luc Picard. I did thought this was a great send-off. As I said, I really like the mystery element. I like the kind of, don't get me wrong, the CG of the blood and when they're flying zero gravity isn't the greatest. And I know there were limitations with that. And I know, obviously, Shatner not getting on with George Takei and stuff like that may have been why, obviously, George Takei isn't with them. But I like the fact there is assassination. I like the fact like Kurtwood Smith was brought into it and other characters, and you had a bigger embassy, and it wasn't just the Klingons are the bad guy. It was like, well, some Klingons are the bad guy, but then also they've got the Romulan ambassador, he's involved with it, and then they've got obviously the Kim Cattrall character, the Vulcan character. Also, probably go back later, I did actually like Kirstie Alley in this. It's a shame they only did a contract for 1 movie and then she had to negotiate, because I thought her character was underused as well. It would have been better for Kirstie Alley to have had her. Sorry, I missed it out on it. So yeah, but it was a good ending. It was a great to see him off, and kind of you think they're going to retirement, and I think it was a nice send off for the film. So that's why I have it as number 2. Shows You Can Feel, number 1 is The Voyage Home. For me, it was not necessarily the unconventional thing, but it was the fact of time travel. It was, as I say, I don't really remember the series, but it's the fact they kind of took the characters out of their normal reality, out. Always people phoning it at the most inopportune moments. So I've totally lost where I was. So the Voyage. So yes. So number 4. Number 4 is my favourite one. As I said, it was just nice to see the cast in a different environment. I say it's not the conventional villain that it's this kind of being thing, and obviously the fact that then it's Wales. But I really like the lady who did the woman at the Institute. I thought she worked really well with them. I thought them being taken into a different environment and having to react with people at the modern time of there in the 80s, and like the rocker on the bus with that, and Shatner like selling the glasses and saying, look, Bones is going to give them back to him anyway. And I thought that was very clever, how it's kind of tied back in a very kind way of thinking of time travel, like whatever, you have, or if you went back in the past and sold it, it's only because you sold it so it would be there for the person to buy in the future. And I thought that was very clever. I did think it was very funny on this one that they meet Christopher Lloyd in The Search for a Spark, and then magically it's all about time travel and obviously Back to the Future reference there. But I presume it's just, unrelated. But yeah, I really did enjoy this movie. They got the whales, and I think it gives a nice message to obviously like how humans, how we've hunted stuff and that can be related today. And I just thought there were a lot of messages, but like how it was written and the humour and directed by Leonard Nimoy in this one. And I think it's like Bones when she's like, oh, I've got liver. He's like, the doctor gave me a pill and I've got a new liver and stuff. And I was hilarious chuckling that, like Chekhov when he's getting like getting interrogated and stuff like this, and he's like having a back and forth, and then like goes to stun him, and obviously the stunner doesn't work and stuff like this, and I thought was quite good. And there were little bits like that I thought were very silly but very right for the time, and I say, and just because it was so different but I think works so well is why it's my favourite. So yeah, so 4 is one of them. So I know it's a bit of a weird, so it goes like, what is it, 4, 6, 2 and 3 together, and then we have 5 and 1. I'm sure people will disagree with my thing, but that is my review, and obviously that is my reasons for. Do you agree, disagree with my thoughts on the Star Trek? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. I've been Cypher Signal Screen Time. This has been a look what I've been watching. Hope you're having a great week, and I shall see you in the next one.